Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Frank Chaparro, Head of Special Projects and Content at GSR, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Keone of Monad and Brett of Coinbase to talk about some very important news. I don't know if any of you guys get the Wall Street delivered to your house. Probably not. I might be the only crypto person who does.
Boomer.
I am kind of a boomer. I'm actually 75 years old. It's just the hair dye and the Botox working its wonders. So this is a token sale platform that's new for Coinbase, and Monad is the first project with which Coinbase is partnering, solving some of the biggest problems that face token projects since not the dawn of time, but since the dawn of crypto, perhaps. But let's just dig right into it. I think one of the basic questions to ask is, why Coinbase are you doing this right now, and why Monad?
Great intro, Frank. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Super excited to be on stage with you. Here's like a little fun fact, by the way. When I was like, hey, what's Keone like, you know? Someone said, well, he's like, I think like the smartest guy I've ever met. And that was, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of saying a lot. And I challenged that, and this person who works with you is just in awe of what you guys have done and achieved and accomplished. And so it's only going to get cooler from here, but it's a little intimidating, you know, to be on stage with you.
Cooler and weirder.
Yeah. So, you know, this is like one of those moments where, you know, the TradFi guy who came into crypto, 6 years ago, kind of is allowed to have a little bit of a smile, on his face, because we're opening the world. And it's exactly what Brian's vision was, right? To democratize access to crypto. And the super interesting thing about where we're headed is we're going to, I think, have to be very careful at precisely what I say in terms of timing, but we're headed towards a first listing with Monad, and we're going to reach the widest set of investors, I think, that's ever been done. And so we've been able to widen the threshold to go well beyond accredited investors. And so while we can't get every geography in the world, we're really reaching far deep into the US, deep globally, deep into key markets. And so I think Brian's vision of what we wanted to do with crypto in terms of access and bringing something to market with ease is met. Now, the selection of who we bring to market is also important, right? You can't, if you do the first thing that's really innovative and really wide-reaching, particularly in light of what happened the last time around with ICOs, I think Coinbase, to maintain its brand of trust, needs to invite, the right type of clients that meet the thresholds for security and all sorts of characteristics that are met and exceeded by the team here. So arguably, I think one of the most exciting launches of the whole year. I think the community is super excited about what's happening. I'm super excited to bring a super high quality team actually to market with this landmark transaction. So hopefully that gives you a little context in terms of where we are.
And it makes sense from the perspective of Monad's story. I feel like the undergirding narrative has been approaching the market with a form of uniqueness. But perhaps for folks who are unfamiliar with that story, Keone, you can walk us through the role of Monad in the crypto ecosystem, the role of the Mon token on the network, and why this moment matters.
Absolutely. Really great to be here. Definitely feel very honored to be on stage with both of you.
Probably my mustache more so than my actual
That's a good mustache, yeah. I think that this is a really exciting time for crypto. I'm very impressed by the rigorousness with which the Coinbase team has built this new token sales platform, and I think the rigorousness of the process and the team's emphasis on having a very high standard for disclosures And really pushing for a really high standard is extremely important to the growth of crypto and the legitimization of crypto, which has been happening over the past many years, but is definitely advanced by this new effort. And I'm really excited that Monad is playing a leading role in this process as well. For those who aren't familiar with Monad, Monad is a project that's been in construction for the past 3.5 years, started in early 2022, and really draws its roots from experience in systems engineering as applied to high-frequency trading, but really with the goal of making things more efficient. And we all know that things right now are not as efficient as they could be in the crypto space, but also more generally in the broader financial space. And the goal of Monad is to introduce new software architectures that help crypto be more efficient and global finance and commerce be more efficient. And that comes from a bunch of new improvements as well as a completely new tech stack. So Monad, the reason why Monad has been in construction for the past 3.5 years is because literally everything had to be built from scratch with the exacting standards of high-frequency trading experience to build a new code base in C++ and Rust and to introduce a bunch of new optimizations, including parallel execution, asynchronous execution, which decouples consensus and execution from each other to massively raise the throughput for these systems, as well as a new database, a new consensus mechanism that is a frontier improvement to BFT consensus, and a bunch of other things like a new compiler that compiles all the EVM bytecode. And all of these technology improvements are there for the purpose of introducing efficiency so that we can grow crypto substantially. And the reason why this moment is really exciting is because it's really a blending of the goals of Monad to achieve a really high degree of decentralization with the launch of the token and the launch of the public network, where it's really important to have a very broad holder base and a really decentralized token ownership as well. So I think that the token sale effort and really our collaboration with Coinbase is an amazing way to decentralize the network and to achieve a really high degree of decentralized token ownership.
That makes a lot of sense. And Brett, I feel like at the end of the day, a key theme here is distribution. And this is something that a myriad of token projects want. But we started with Monad. What was it about Monad, and you delineated some of those points before, made this feel like the right fit to kick things off with?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to your overall, the overall context of market, because if the room thinks for a second, one would be like the ideal time, the window, like the best ever window for this to happen. It's literally the window's open as of this minute, right? The super big context is past few years, we've had institutional adoption, retail adoption. We've had a wave. The first wave is already here. It's happened. But what happened with the Trump administration is it reset the tone. All of you hopefully are well aware of that. But the passing of the Genius Act was, from the seat I'm in, an enormous trigger for everyone that has yet to activate to pile into the space, and with speed. And so just think about what happened. Brian just announced earlier, like a minute ago, that JP Morgan deposits are now live on the Base token, right? So we announced deals with Citi and otherwise. So we've got the biggest, G-SIFIs, banks, financial incumbents, all of a sudden really, really paying attention and saying this thing's not going away. In fact, it's growing. The pace of change is growing. They're looking at, they're observing, like, what is going to happen? This disruption of crypto and this efficiency, this whole, like, there's a better, faster, cheaper way. Like, what is that thing? And how is it going to affect our business? And what an epic answer. This is at this moment in time to bring for the first time in an entirely new way, right? And we're bringing a credible, super credible, highly talented team that was able, by the way, Keone's not nearly as nice as he presented his gratefulness on process that he just reflected here was reflected to me in a somewhat different way in terms of, come on, man, we got to get this thing done. And enough is enough. And we had a little bit of that with BlackRock as well, kind of bringing them to marketplace. But there's a reason why the bar is set so high on diligence on this team. So I would say that the characteristics of who Keone is, his team, the quality of the product itself is for us a defining feature, and one that we're confident, bringing to market in this high stakes, right? It's a high stakes moment for all of crypto and for us. And on that key point of distribution, having come to Coinbase to start an institutional business, we have this enormous consumer footprint, right? Retail footprint that's there. Everyone has wanted to every single issuer has wanted to tap into that. And I'm super excited that this is really the first real evidence of completely disrupting the way protocols come to market and are able to distribute tokens. So it's awesome.
Walk us through the story of Monad, Keone. What other ways have you guys sort of approached things differently or disrupted the usual course of events for a token project?
Yeah, I think it really starts from the start, because when we started Monad at the beginning of 2022, we looked at all the existing solutions, we looked at existing code bases, did a ton of benchmarking, and realized that there were some serious bottlenecks in the current systems. And some of those bottlenecks take the form of the consensus mechanism itself. So for context, Ethereum has finality in 12 to 18 minutes. So there's a block every 12 seconds, so that the train comes by every 12 seconds, and you can load some transactions into the car, and then another car comes along every 12 seconds. But finality is 12 to 18 minutes, which is crazy because global financial systems can't wait for, you can't go to the coffee shop and get your coffee and then wait 18 minutes for the coffee shop to be sure that you paid them and give you your coffee. It'll be cold. So it was like things like that, but then also looking at the database layer itself. Existing systems are not optimized for the specific problems that crypto is trying to solve, which is an extreme degree, like a high degree of decentralization, where we have distributed control over the network. We don't just have one node controlling everything. The requirements of a decentralized system have bled into the result, which is that we have crypto systems right now that are decentralized but are not very efficient or slow due to that finality, due to the need to have all state be authenticated, stored in a Merkle tree. The recomputation of that Merkle tree is really inefficient. So really the genesis of Monad kind of going right where other people might go left is, or is it left when other people go right?
Whichever direction you want to choose today.
Whichever, yeah. Comes initially from technology, and then has over the past couple of years translated also into the team's community building effort, and the effort to really focus not on farming, not on sort of airdrop hunters and low quality community building, but building a network of true believers.
We've seen cycle after cycle of failures in terms of retaining users.
Absolutely, and then from that, it's kind of turned into a different approach in terms of ecosystem support and ecosystem building. I'm really proud of what our team has done on the ecosystem building side. We're really focused on supporting early stage builders with a high level of support, but also just really helping them to focus on user acquisition and growth into the broader non-crypto space as well, with some of our new initiatives like Monad Momentum. We recently we announced the Monad airdrop and built a new system for the kind of—
Who has their boxes? Who did their boxes in here? Did everybody do that? There you go. This guy did.
Yeah, we got a couple of boxes recipients here. So just I don't know, trying to make crypto really fun, trying to reinvent experiences that people are used to with new networks like an airdrop, but doing it in a very different way, giving out the monad cards, just things to remind people that adoption requires competing for attention with the entire rest of the world at TikTok.
Creativity.
And being creative, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. So let's go back to the platform. Let's dig a bit deeper into it and maybe highlight some of the advantages for users and Coinbase customers.
I want to amplify a point he made on just finality.
Absolutely.
Just for a second. Okay, so again, I want to paint this picture for you of this important moment where the second adopters are looking what's happening in our space. And you said something really powerful, which is finality in 12 to 18 minutes. And so it's a boring but hugely powerful point. And just to ground everyone in sort of financial reality as it exists today, in the world's biggest, equities and bond trading businesses, there are, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of trades that happen during the course of a trading day. If you've got amazing systems, you have a reconciliation sometime during the day, sometimes maybe once overnight. You've got identification of things that don't reconcile, the management of those, that triggers all sorts of other actions in the system, including things like margin calls. There's another set of reconciliations, and then finality comes after settlement and another series of reconciliations. And so if you're running a complex financial ecosystem, it's a really long time between trade inception and finality, okay? And there's a whole bunch of redundant systems and reconciliations and actions that are taken in between the initiation of a trade and the finality of it. And there's an enormous amount of cost and infrastructure that large banks and incumbents have to maintain to actually just get a trade done, okay? So if you think through the power of what he's just describing, to be able to run a financial ecosystem that is able to do all sorts of transactions and get finality, it's like the ultimate cost cutter, right? It's the ultimate efficiency cutter. And so when the picture I'm painting for you is when a TradFi and the existing financial ecosystems are evaluating what is this technology, what is this advancement, like show me how this translates into real disruption in my industry. This is it, right? Not exclusively monad, of course, but like this is a great representation of how crypto is going to eat the world and how crypto is really going to influence and improve, like in a good way, not a bad way, right? You have financial soundness that comes out of this, and you have all this variability that I described before, which is going to kind of fade quickly and get to certainty. So I don't want you to underestimate the impact of what I think is going to happen with respect to not just hopefully a successful launch, but the application of technology as we move forward from here. So it's sometimes hard, for the outside world that doesn't appreciate this stuff and says like, I don't understand crypto and how things work. I think you got to kind of bring some of these points home to say, imagine your reconciliation trade for your highest margin, lowest margin, highest volume businesses are going to be like equities, T-bills, that sort of thing. Literally hundreds, millions of trades, and that whole process is massively cost ineffective stack. And so I don't know. I have great expectation in terms of what happens next once the mainnet goes live, once we have a lot of developers, and so that's that. So I don't want to take up too much time. We can go back to the platform if you want to maybe ask Keone another question, and then I'll do platform.
We can ask him about his perspective on the platform and how you think it benefits the broader ecosystem.
Sure. I think that, like at the end of the day, the North Star for our entire ecosystem is decentralization and basically the disruption of inefficient systems with better systems that are more fair, that give people equitable access to financial tools, and that break down barriers and enable a borderless economy and a borderless world. Right now, there are a lot of people that live in countries where their native currency is inflating at a 20%, 30% rate, and they don't have access to great banking systems. Or it's like hard for a small business owner to get a loan in order to fund their business and grow. It's hard for companies that are succeeding in their local economy to really grow. And I think the goal of, in my opinion, the goal of crypto is to make the world more fair and to knock down borders that exist and give open access to systems, and also to give users ownership of all of their own data and control of their assets and control of the things that pertain to them, that belong to them. And I think in accomplishing this goal of having a very borderless economy, we need decentralized systems and we need technology that enables that decentralization, which is what our team is all about. But we also need mechanism. We need the systems and the networks that are built, the most important networks in the world, to also have very broad ownership. And I think that the previous history of token sale platforms and the previous history of ICOs, is an interesting one. It's certainly one that
It's a lot of lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like, because it's such an important problem, there is so much interest and excitement in token sales, and that in the past has not always attracted the best actors running those platforms and the highest standards of listing, or the highest standards of conducting those sales. So I think something that's really important about this moment today, right now, is that we have a world-class team in Coinbase that has put in a ton of effort to build a world-class platform, but also a world-class process for evaluating new tokens and imposing a level of diligence that actually will push the space forward and have a greater degree of disclosures, a greater degree of constraints on projects, and really just help elevate the space.
You guys have brought disclosures to the next level. I feel like you guys are very transparent.
I think that, if I could take that for 1 second, the Monad project's disclosures, which I think have been talked about on Twitter, like market makers, things like that, people have been giving a lot of kudos, but I think it's actually just that should be the standard. That should be what's expected.
Yeah, the two reflections I would make on the platform itself go back to lessons learned from history. And one of the coolest things about crypto is this idea of being inclusive. One of the hardest things to deal with, if there's no barrier to entry into the marketplace, as Keone said, it tends to invite bad actors into the space. So the philosophical question, but the practical reality is, how do you create a standard and a threshold through which just the best businesses can pass? And I don't think Coinbase is trying to be a unique standard by itself, but if we establish for the brand that we've got, we protect the brand. If we have a very rigorous standard for what gets done on the platform, that doesn't mean we're endorsing everything that comes through it. That just means there's been a lot of work and diligence that went through the evaluation of how to get someone into the platform. Then maybe investors should do their own diligence, but maybe that's helpful to everyone in crypto, actually, for kind of weeding out a little bit of those fly-by-night sort of actors. On the flip side, on the investor side, we can debate this too. The reason why you have all these thresholds for investors, beginning with mass retail and then accredited investors, and there's a whole layer, and only the top layer gets the best stuff. Well, in a world where you can increase transparency and disclosure, and again, that disclosure isn't, there's consequences around, having things like audited financials and getting sure the right information is there, then why can't people actually elect to make investments and early investments, pre-launch investments, with financial incentives to, perhaps discounted tokens as a good way of attracting interest? So for me, someone that's lived in regulated finance for his entire career, left into the world of crypto almost 6 years ago. I'm trying to figure out how to bring the spirit of what we want to do, which is transparency, access, and all those things with a high quality set of issuers in the platform. Hopefully that resonates with the audience.
So we've talked a bit about the past. For the future, what does this moment mean for token sales?
Well, we're notoriously slow in terms of bringing things to market, and honestly, it's a source of constant tension, but people describe it as like a champagne problem. We've got a bunch of high-quality issuers that want to hit the marketplace. So I hope that over time, the pace of bringing deals is something like once a month. I'm not sure, but I'd like to see the greatest number of high-quality projects that we can have in the marketplace. It'd be great and maybe wishful thinking, but I hope they all go well. I feel like we've got a good runway. I can't say anything about the forward price of anything for sure, but I feel like the backdrop is very constructive in terms of where we stand for us as an industry. I've been through a couple peaks and valleys since joining Coinbase, but it feels to me with the regulatory backdrop we have, the sentiment that we've got, the amount of evidence I see with institutions of all types, from small entrepreneurs to the biggest investors entering into the space, looking at how to deploy technology, how to solve new use cases, how to create new dApps. I don't think that, even if we get another price correction, which we should get, I don't think it's going to take any momentum out of the engagement that we have on both the issuer and the investor side. So I'm super constructive for the 18 months to 2 years out.
So am I. Very constructive. What say you, Keone?
About what I'm thinking about going forward.
Yeah.
I think the world is just such a big place. There's so much, there's so many businesses that can benefit from embedding crypto rails into their payment systems. A big part of our effort at the Monad Foundation is enabling growth of stable coins. We acquired a company called Portal 3 or 4 months ago that is an amazing team and an amazing product that enables any business to embed stable coins. And I just think that right now we're kind of at the inflection point where we now have systems that can really scale to support a very broad set of users. We have been focused on UI and improving onboarding flows, improving wallet security. We've seen some companies in the space that have done a great job improving UX, UI. And the world is just such a massive place. There's so much to be done. And I think that it's just a constructive environment where we have really smart people in the industry who have a clear path forward, know what needs to get done, and then I think with respect to this particular announcement and the token sales platform, I think it is a further legitimizing moment that combines with other things that are going on, such as what Brett mentioned with the excitement and the understanding that large institutions have of the efficiency that can come from crypto systems. So all in all, I think it's not just a single story. It's actually a combination of several different threads that are all getting woven together at this moment that makes me incredibly excited about the future.
Amazing. Well, gentlemen, thank you both. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
And thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.